Part 14. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 131. He was a middle-aged man with combed hair straight and full of uprightness. When he came, Zhang Zizai was practicing the Baidu swordsmanship. I come from the West Prince's mansion. The Prince of the West is hosting a banquet tonight and invites the young prince and all the princes and princesses to the banquet. This is the invitation. There are a total of 4 people in the Yanlong dynasty who can call themselves kings. King Zilan is the only foreigner. The other 3 are all branches of the Yanlong royal family, and King Zilong is one of them. In addition, there are the East Dragon King and the North Dragon King. King Zilan and these 3 Dragon Kings were collectively called the 4 kings of the dynasty. The identity of the eldest son of Prince 11 is similar to that of Zhang Junjian. Zhang Zizai is not the eldest son, so he is slightly inferior. I won't go, he has never met the Prince of the West, so he must be too lazy to deal with it. The middle-aged man smiled and said, the prince expects that the young prince may not be interested in attending the banquet, but he has one thing to tell you. He has another task tonight, which is to escort a prisoner to Tay prison. If the young prince attends the banquet, maybe after the banquet, we can go to Tay prison to meet Zhang Junjian. Zhang Zizai put away Long Yu sword and looked at the middle-aged man. The current commander of Tay prison, Baitang Ce, was a former subordinate of King Zilong. The prince has been practicing in Tay prison in recent years, and often escorted prisoners from all over the dynasty. The prisoner is now in the Zhuang mansion. The prince plans to drop by after the banquet. The mission is completed. I wonder if the young prince is interested in meeting his brother. Lu Dingxing just came back from outside and heard what they said. Boss, this Prince of the West is from the Holy Dragon Palace in the 6 Palaces gathering. I'm afraid he wants to take the opportunity to show off to you. He could guess the purpose of these people. It doesn't matter. I haven't made many new friends since I came to Yanlong Ruins. Since the Prince of the West appreciates his favor, I will definitely go to the banquet tonight, Zhang Zizai said. Then just wait for the arrival of the young prince. I will take my leave first. The middle-aged man smiled and left with his hands behind his back. Really going? Zhang Zizai said, maybe we can really see my brother and your father. There must be danger at the banquet. At least you don't dare to kill someone openly. Just be careful when the time comes. Compared to Princess Shenxiao, Zhang Zizai felt that the children of princes and nobles were much easier to deal with. At least Zhang Zizai was on guard against them. I'll go too. Okay, follow my instructions when the time comes. Do you want to talk to the priest? Need not. It was actually already evening now. Zhang Zizai tidied up and changed into formal clothes. In this state, he was extremely handsome. No matter how many people were around him, his heroic spirit and outstandingness were unmatched by ordinary people. He inserted the lonja sword into the scabbard, pinned it on his body, and straightened his clothes in the mirror. He saw himself in the mirror, serious and domineering, with a murderous look between his eyebrows. He was indeed different from the carefree self before. Walk. After calling Lu Dingxing behind them, the 2 of them left the 9 Immortals pavilion, exited the sacrifice temple, and headed towards the Western Prince's mansion. Except for King Zilan, the other 3 kings have palaces in Yanlong Ruins. The West Prince's mansion is located to the west of Yanlong Ruins, quite far from the sacrifice temple. When we arrived, it was already dark. The Zhuang mansion was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations, making it very lively. In fact, there is a larger Zhuang city in the west of the dynasty. It is the base camp of the Zilong king, which is equivalent to the Dajiang king city. The Zilong king usually lives in the Zhuang city. The Zhuang mansion in Yanlong Ruins is usually occupied by juniors. Prince 11 Wang is the owner here, and there are no other elders present. When Zhang Zizai arrived, it was very lively inside. There were some guards standing at the door, heavily guarded. The middle-aged man who sent the invitation in the evening was at the door. When he saw Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing, he smiled slightly, cupped his hands and said, "Welcome, young prince, my eldest son and all the eldest sons, young gentlemen, we are waiting for you two inside." Zhang Zizai said nothing and was led in by him. "Who else is there besides the crown prince of the west?" Zhang Zizai asked on the way. "There are also the crown prince of the east and the crown prince of the north, as well as the prime minister's granddaughter Xiang Luiying, the grandson of Baoqiagong Gongsun Lai, etc. They are all the descendants of the top beings in the dynasty. This is the most exclusive banquet in the entire Yanlong dynasty. Generally speaking, the descendants of the royal family at this age are all disciples of Shenglong Palace, and the descendants of princes, nobles, and high-ranking military officers are all in the Protectorate Mansion. It is said that the current owners of the Protectorate Mansion are all sons of the current Prime Minister, named Xiang Lu. It turns out that it is this Prime Minister Lu Ying's father, Duke Bao, who is also an important minister of the imperial dynasty, and his grandson Gongsun Lai is also practicing in the National Guard Mansion. In addition, there should be other children of high-ranking officials, but the middle-aged man did not introduce them in detail. After all, their status is inferior to these five. The three Dragon Kings are a few years younger than King Zilan, so their age is much younger than Zhang Junjian, but about the same as the young prince. You four are all descendants of the queen and of the same age. It should be easy to get along, the middle-aged man said. Zhang Zizai said, "My family has experienced changes. It is no longer what it used to be. Naturally, I can't compare with them." The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Young prince, what you said is wrong. The Kailan royal family has made great contributions to the dynasty in history. Even if King Zilan has done it, it has nothing to do with the young prince. Wait until King Zilan is executed, and the crown prince of Nanwang beheads, etc. When the young prince reaches the holy body realm, he will be the new Zilan king. You will become king before the three princes." This sentence seemed to be congratulations, but in fact, Zhang Zizai felt murderous intent in his heart. When this middle-aged man spoke, he smiled, but there was a knife hidden in his smile. "When your father and brother die, you will be the new king. So the young prince's current status is almost the same as that of the prince." This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. He added another sentence. "What's your name?" Zhang Zizai stopped and looked at him. "I am Chen Qian, just a small staff member of the West King's mansion." Zhang Zizai remembered this name and said, "Please show me the way." Chen Qian continued to smile and led Zhang Zizai through the corridor. From a distance, they could hear the laughter in the palace in front of them. Young men and women indulged in sensual pleasures and lived a life of drunkenness and dreams. The mellow aroma of the wine filled the entire West King's mansion. "Hello. Ha, this beauty." Chen Qian stood at the door and called out softly, saying, "Report to the prince, Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing from the Kailan royal family have arrived." The music inside stopped, and a young man's voice came, "Hurry up and bring them in." Zhang Zizai was dressed in formal clothes, looking very heroic. Behind him, Lu Dingxing was burly. Zhang Zizai was already taller than ordinary people, but he was 2 heads taller than Zhang Zizai, just like a living giant beast. The two of them walked in, with a calm and steady momentum, not arrogant or impatient, and immediately suppressed the lively scene. "Zhang Zizai, it's our first meeting, please take a seat." Just after entering, the host, the Prince of the West, was right above him. Zhang Zizai didn't know his name, and didn't want to know his name. This Prince of the West was also a handsome man, wearing gorgeous clothes, but at this time his clothes were disheveled, his face was slightly red, he smelled of alcohol, and his pair of peach blossom eyes were swaying around, sloppy. Zhang Zizai sat down and waited for them to make a move. "Come, let me introduce you. This is the Prince of the East, and this is the Prince of the North. On his left and right sat a young man of similar age. The Prince of the East was tall, and even at this time, he was wearing armor, with a cold face and a pair of eyes with a faint purple. The Prince of Baishan on the right looked shorter, with eyes like frost. He grew up in the north, where there was ice and snow, and there were many source beasts, and there was more evil spirit, and he had obviously experienced more killing. This is Xiang Luiying, the granddaughter of the Prime Minister, the daughter of the Lord of the Protectorate, beautiful, right. Next to the Prince of the North sat a woman. She was a little cold, and her temperament was completely inconsistent with this scene. The others had a table full of wine and meat, but she had only a glass of water on the table. And she was the only woman. Beside the others, there were beautiful and charming maids serving wine, but there was no one around her. She closed her eyes and rested, as if she was not in this place. In terms of appearance, he is naturally extraordinary, and can be regarded as a beauty in the world. The most valuable thing is that he has a rare bookish air. He looks like a person who is well read in poetry and books, which is very rare. This is the grandson of the Duke of Baokyo. Gong Soon Lai, the Prince of the West King, introduced another beast-like boy. This man's eyes are very aggressive, and he can't hide his desire to suppress Zhang Zizai. After the introduction, Zhang Zizai knew that the good show was about to begin. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 132. Everyone, it's our first meeting. I'd like to toast you all. Zhang Zizai spoke before them and raised the wine glass in his hand. Two scantily clad beauties leaned gently beside them, smiling sweetly and with charming eyes. They were almost not wearing any clothes, only a few small cloth belly bands covering their key parts, which could be torn off with a slight lift. You're welcome. Everyone's eyes lit up and they raised their glasses. Let's drink first. Zhang Zizai was about to drink the wine. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Wait, the Western Prince pointed at Lu Dingxing and asked with a smile, this is the son of General Zhongli, why don't you raise your glasses together? Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, don't worry about him. Although this guy is tall, he has a problem since he was a child. He can't touch alcohol. If he touches a little, he will faint for 3 days and 3 nights. Seeing that the 6 prefectures grand meeting is about to begin, you should ignore him and treat him as heir. The northern prince glanced at Lu Dingxing and said, that would be a bummer. If you don't want to drink, you shouldn't have come. The Prince of the West laughed and said, don't tell the guests that, brother Lu Dingxing, I think he is a totem warrior after all, so it's not that exaggerated. Today we meet for the first time, let's have a toast together. I have prepared some programs for you. Let's play and chat later. Lu Dingxing shook his head and said, sorry, it really can't be done. After drinking a cup, I don't have to participate in the 6 prefectures gala. I heard that you are not in the Xuanmei realm, so whether you participate or not is actually useless. Oh, I see, you don't want to miss some important things. The Prince of the East, who was wearing armor, sneered and put down the wine glass in his hand. Brother, don't be angry, and don't talk nonsense. We are all friends when we get together. Since Lu Dingxing can't drink, we can't embarrass him. Haha, let's drink together. The Prince of the West finally made the scene round. But Zhang Zizai was vigilant. Why did he toast first, but Lu Dingxing didn't drink? It's very simple. They just want to test whether there is any problem with the wine. From their attitude, the wine is definitely problematic. Moreover, seeing that he couldn't deal with Lu Dingxing, the Prince of the West chose to give up and concentrate on Zhang Zizai. Next, everyone raised their glasses and drank the wine. Zhang Zizai drank it all, and there was a ball of fire in his mouth. It was the burning of Huo Xian Tianlong's true energy. The wine was burned clean as soon as it reached his mouth. After the wine was burned, the impurities could not be burned, and condensed into a crystal about the size of a grain of rice. Zhang Zizai spit it out easily. They only paid attention to Zhang Zizai drinking it all, but they didn't know that the key thing made him spit it out. Zhang Zizai could clearly feel that after he drank it, they felt relaxed. The Prince of the West patted the table and said, "Drink this wine, and everyone will be friends playing together in the future. Come on, go on the show." Under his arrangement, a group of beauties walked into the palace with lotus steps. There were musicians and dancers. Whether it was musicians or dancers, they were still enchanting and beautiful, and they were only covered with light gauze, and even the graceful and mysterious parts were vaguely visible. After a while, the music started, and the beauty began to dance. The dance was enchanting and particularly moving, and her eyes were flirting. Intentionally or unintentionally, they were hinting at Zhang Zizai and stirring his heartstrings. To be honest, these naked women were top-notch in figure and appearance, but compared with Juxian, they were far behind. Zhang Zizai practiced with Juxian every day, and under normal circumstances, he was not seduced. As for Lu Dingxing, he hated such women of the world, and was too lazy to look at them. He sat upright, not eating or drinking, and did not ask. "Brother Zizai, you must think that our invitation to you is particularly abrupt, right? After all, you have many troubles at home now, and many people don't want to get too close to you." As the song and dance started, the Prince of the West began to chat. "I think it's okay. As for my family's affairs, there should be some misunderstandings. Father and His Majesty should be able to ease the relationship after some time. After all, I am in Yanlongxiu, and there will be many opportunities to get to know you in the future. It's okay to get to know each other now." When he wanted to talk, Zhang Zizai followed his words. In fact, he knew that the other party was waiting for the drug to take effect. "It's probably some powerful aphrodisiac. When I lose control, I will be seduced by these beauties in public like a wolf and a tiger, and I will be unrestrained. When they use the image talisman to record it, they can say that I was drunk and unrestrained. This routine is not new. At most, it can be regarded as a case of giving someone a taste of their own medicine. They must have heard about Zhang Zizai using the image talisman to record Zhang Zhengzi. Zhang Zizai has been drinking, but he basically burned it all. There is a lens in every glass of wine, which shows how fierce their drugs are. In fact, as long as they were prepared, they could not harm Zhang Zizai. However, this method was indeed cruel. After all, Zhang Zizai had no grudges against them, so they had no need to use such a sinister method. As they chatted, probably because they saw that Zhang Zizai had not yet attacked, the Prince of the West could not help asking, "I heard that you and the princess played together in childhood, and you have been walking around a lot recently. When you were in Mist Island, she watched your fight all the way." Zhang Zizai understood that they wanted to harm him because of Princess Shenxiao. Obviously, the news of Princess Shengxiao's martial arts competition to recruit a husband had spread, and they all wanted to become that prince consort, but it seemed that Zhang Zizai suddenly appeared and attracted the attention of Princess Shenxiao. Therefore, they wanted Zhang Zizai to be disgraced before the grand gathering of the 6 prefectures, and then the image of him acting wildly and indulgently at the banquet would be spread. Such a person would definitely not be able to be the prince consort. After all, the royal family still needs face. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. After knowing their purpose, Zhang Zizai smiled even more and said, "Actually, I have forgotten everything about my childhood, but the princess remembers it clearly, and there is nothing I can do about it. I didn't expect that after we haven't seen each other for many years, she once called me Zizai. My brother's little girl is so beautiful, even 10,000 of these vulgar girls can't compare to her." He said those singing girls and beauties were vulgar, and even the music stopped for a while. "Keep playing, keep dancing," Prince 11 gritted his teeth. They looked at each other and felt that the medicine might not be effective enough to charm Zhang Zizai. The beauties twisted their bodies even more crazily, attracting Zhang Zizai. The two beauties next to them also rubbed their full breasts against Zhang Zizai's arms, intentionally or unintentionally. The princess is so kind to me. On the boat to Kiri's Hima, we chatted all night long. Under the night wind, her appearance was truly unforgettable. If you are dissatisfied, you said that I intend to defeat her at the Six Houses Gala. Zhang Zizai showed an expression of admiration, and indeed the three princes were so angry that they gnashed their teeth. Only the prince of the West Prince had a deeper palace, and the hands of the other two holding the cups were trembling. I said, do the three princes also like the princess? Then we are competitors, Zhang Zizai said with a smile. Prince 11 smiled and said, you are kidding me. The princess has a daughter of gold. We dare not think wildly. But brother Zizi is very courageous and we admire him. Zhang Zizai said, don't say that, the main thing is the princess's love. Dare I ask, has the princess confirmed her relationship with brother Zizi in private? Prince Dongwang asked in a deep voice. This is inconvenient to say, haha. Zhang Zizai smiled and drank another glass of wine. This wine is really mellow, come again. They looked at each other, their eyes full of depression. With so many medicines, even an elephant would have an attack. To put it mildly, in the current situation, if the crown prince of the south is confirmed to be an accomplice, he may have to ask Jean, brother Zi, how can he get together with the princess? The crown prince of the north asked. Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, if you can marry the princess, do you still think that your majesty will kill my brother? By the way, didn't the crown prince of the west say that he would take me to see my brother? It's already getting late, so we should set off quickly. That's right. Prince 11 is also depressed. How can he not be crazy after drinking so much? Could it be that the crown prince doesn't want to take me there at all and is just using this as a gimmick to trick me into coming to the banquet? Zhang Zizai stood up and asked. Prince 11 smiled awkwardly and said, you are overthinking it. He looked at each other and said, it's indeed almost time. Let's set off for Tai prison. I just want to escort the prisoners in. Spring breeze, Yulu, brother Zizi drank a lot, please support and serve him along the way. Yes, the two waiters, Meiji, nodded obediently. Brother Zizi, please forgive me. After all, I can't take you in openly. Please get on the carriage. They, the children of nobles, ride in horse-drawn carriages the most when they go out, because they don't have to show off. After walking out of the West Prince's mansion, carriages were ready outside, followed by many guards and a prison car. In the prison car was a blood-stained and dying man. Zhang Zizai got on the carriage, and the two beauties followed. The carriage was lit with pink lights and was completely enclosed. Under the light, the beauty's snow-white skin became even more attractive. Little prince, it's a long journey, but do you want the two slave sisters to serve the young prince and let him relax? Meiji leaned lightly on Zhang Zizai, and inadvertently pulled down her belly band. I hadn't noticed just now, but they turned out to be twins, looking exactly the same. Come and serve. Zhang Zizai opened his arms. Meiji's eyes lit up, and just as they were about to step forward, they were suddenly slapped by Zhang Zi and fainted on the ground. Zhang Zizai picked up the carpet from the carriage and covered them with it. Then he closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the moment when he arrived at the Hell of Tahi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 133. The carriage was moving very slowly, obviously deliberately delaying time. Yanlongxiu was very large, and the carriage stopped at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Zhang Zizai knew that Tai prison had arrived. This was a prison that people were afraid of, and it was not at the same level as the fierce prison in the great Zhongqing city. Zhang Zizai got off the car, and the carriage in front had also stopped. More than a dozen princes and nobles gathered up. The Prince of the West looked at Zhang Zizai's carriage curiously and asked, "Why didn't the sisters Chunfeng and Yula get off?" "They were a little tired and fell asleep in the car." Zhang Zizai smiled. Several people showed a look of realization, secretly thinking that the drug effect had taken effect, but Zhang Zizai had been holding back until he vented his beastly nature in a place where no one was. "What a skill, you can make two beauties tired and fall asleep." The Prince of the West gave a thumbs up and laughed. "Let's not talk about this. Prince, please escort the prisoners quickly so that I can visit Tai prison with you." "No problem, let's go." The carriages were left behind, and they escorted the prisoners forward alone. When they left, Prince Xuanhuan winked at his staff member Chen Qian, probably asking him to take out the image symbol in Zhang Zizai's carriage. Zhang Zizai saw it all. There were several image symbols in it, and he wanted to record them in all directions. Unfortunately, these were all left over from his play. Tai prison was a fortress in the dark. The pillars and gates at the entrance were all blood red, like the bloody mouth and sharp teeth of a giant beast, swallowing Zhang Zizai in. There were many powerful jailers in Tai prison, all of whom were fierce characters. Ordinary people didn't dare to approach here at all, but Prince Xuanhuan happened to be on duty here, and they were all old acquaintances. When they saw him escorting the prisoners in, the jailers laughed and chatted for a few words, and then let them in. The people who were traveling with the Prince of the West were all the proud sons of Yanlongxiu. The jailers naturally did not dare to ask their identities. Moreover, they knew the Prince of the East and the Prince of the North. The three princes and others walked in front. They looked at each other and showed a tacit smile of success. "Next, just complete the task and send Zhang Zizai away. Then, with the explosive image symbol, the good show will begin. As for using his privilege to let him see Zhang Junjian, it is just a small matter." The Prince of the West first escorted the prisoner to the place, and then said, "I will take you to see Zhang Junjian, but the sooner the better. It is best not to exceed 30 breaths. If it takes too long, I will be responsible if others find out." "Can I see Uncle Lu too?" Zhang Zizai asked. The Prince of the West said in silence, "The day after tomorrow is the 6 prefectures grand meeting, and Lu Yuan has been escorted to Huangguo Gate." Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing looked at each other. Lu Dingxing was quite regretful, but there was no way after all. They went to the depths of Tai prison. It is said that Zhang Junjian is in the deepest part. The prisoners in Tai prison are all in separate cells, which are completely closed. The stronger the strength, the more imprisonment and torture there will be. No matter what level of strong people, Tai prison has a way to control them. Your brother is treated well and enjoys the disaster room. It's okay during the day, but at 3 o'clock in the night, there will be cold air and sword energy entering the body, which is a bit miserable. The Prince of the North King couldn't help but say. "Actually, I think it would be a good thing for Brother Zizai if Zhang Junjian is gone. After all, with him, how could Brother Zizai possibly get involved in the position of the future Purple Scale King?" The Prince of the West King patted Zhang Zizai's shoulder and said, "Right." This sentence has already made Zhang Zizai's eyes murderous. They clearly know what the relationship between Zhang Zizai and his brother is, otherwise Zhang Zizai would not come here at all. They are all going to participate in the 6 prefectures grand meeting. When the time comes, let's see who will win at the Royal Martial Gate. Just go inside, as soon as possible. I'll give you 30 breaths. Leave quickly when the time is up. It will be troublesome if others find me," the Prince of the West King warned. Without saying a word, Zhang Zizai turned into a black shadow and rushed into the depths of the dark, smelly, and damp corridor. At the end of the corridor, there was an iron door. It was unknown what material the iron door was made of. Zhang Zizai knew that even if he chopped it with the dragon sword, he could not destroy it at all. He stood in front of the iron door, looking at the disaster room with his eyes. At this moment, he felt like holding a piece of yellow lotus in his mouth. In the dark prison, there were many chains hanging on the walls around. In the center, a tall man was locked. The man was covered with blood stains, his hair was messy and hanging down, and his clothes were covered with whip marks. Brother. In the past, he was handsome, mature, steady, and righteous. He was the first in the 6 prefectures festival and had unlimited scenery. He was the dream lover of countless girls in the dynasty. Today, he is in prison, and it is a horrible sight. When Zhang Zizai first came, it was just after the cold air of the disaster broke out. The man's hands, feet, and waist were all wrapped in heavy chains. His body was covered with ice, and his wounds were frozen with ice. You can imagine how uncomfortable it was. Zhang Zizai, a raging rage burned in his heart. What he saw with his own eyes was a blood feud. He could not forget what a brilliant young man he was. He could not imagine that he had to endure such hardships day and night. His heart was like a knife cutting, it hurt a lot. Interestingly, in the confusion, he heard a familiar voice. The man wrapped in chains raised his head, his eyes passed through the messy, blood-stained hair, and saw Zhang Zizai. Zizai. The man's eyes flashed with a trace of disbelief, maybe he thought he was seeing things. Brother, I got my natal totem, came to Yanlongxiu, and entered the temple of sacrifice. Zhang Zizai choked up a little, holding the iron door tightly with both hands, his eyes full of bloodshot. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. He wanted him to know that he didn't have to worry about his future. This was what he wanted his brother to know the most in all these years. Good, very good. The man was stunned for a moment and smiled slightly. Are Yuning, Xiaoyu, and Mother okay? This was the first question he asked. Don't worry, brother, they are all good, no one can bully them. Hearing the affirmative answer, Zhang Junjian still smiled even under such hardships. Zizai, it seems that you are not simple, to be able to come here. You look different. Zhang Junjian completely ignored the heavy chains on his body and looked at his brother, still as cool as before. How is it different? Like me, haha. But, it's more coquettish than me. Zhang Zizai laughed. The two brothers seemed to meet at home, and they didn't care about the iron gate and chain in this reality. Brother, in 2 days, I will attend the 6 prefectures festival. Uncle Lu will be beheaded at the same time and place. Although Zhang Zizai was laughing, his bloodshot eyes were particularly obvious in the dark, like 2 red lanterns. 6 prefectures festival, I really miss it. Zhang Junjian raised his head. Men in our family are only allowed to take first place. Do you have confidence? He looked at Zhang Zizai with fiery eyes. Without first place, I am not Zhang Zizai. Haha. He laughed heartily and said, I used to worry that you would not live a good life. Now seeing you like this is really the biggest surprise in my life. Zizai, I want to live. When he said the last sentence, his eyes were full of desire. Okay. Zhang Zizai nodded firmly. He agreed. It was a relationship thicker than blood, a respect and protection from childhood. I want to live. He didn't want his glorious life to end like this. You don't need to feel pressured. Do what you can do. For the rest, trust your father. I understand. Zhang Zizai nodded heavily. He knew what to do and what not to do. Their father is still here. They haven't lost yet. One more word, Zhang Junjian said loudly. I'm listening. If Uncle Lu dies the day after tomorrow, remember to keep Lu Dingxing for me. Our family owes Uncle Lu. Even if you die, Lu Dingxing can't die. Brother, I know. Zhang Zizai's eyes were already red. This might be Zhang Junjian's promise to Lu Yuan. He didn't know if he could survive, so he told Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai, the time is up, hurry up. Outside, the Prince of the West was already shouting. Let's go. Zhang Junjian pulled the chain with difficulty and waved to Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai took a deep breath and turned around. And he paused. Help me apologize to Dong Yangjing and tell her that if I die, I must find a good person. His voice trembled, gritted his teeth, and said this to Zhang Zizai. You won't die. Zhang Zizai pursed his lips, smiled, and repeated, Brother, you won't die. Zhang Zizai. There was another shout outside. Zhang Zizai resolutely turned around and left, his figure disappeared in the darkness. Behind him, Zhang Junjian stared at his younger brother in a daze, and then couldn't help laughing in this disaster. He hadn't been so happy for a long time. Zizai, I hope that one day, our brothers can sit together and discuss martial arts. The darkness swallowed him again. Let's go, it's already a lot of time. The Western Prince's face was not very good, and they sped up to leave here. In a blink of an eye, they left Tai prison. Brother Zizai, see you the day after tomorrow. Then I will show you something interesting. After coming out, the Prince of the West smiled and bowed. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 134. Near the carriage convoy of the Prince of the West, when they were about to say goodbye, Chen Qian walked up, stared at Zhang Zizai with an unkind expression, and then said a few words in the ear of the Prince of the West. After hearing this, Prince Naxi and others' expressions changed greatly. Zhang Zizai, stop, a group of them shouted to stop Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing. What other orders does the Crown Prince have? Zhang Zizai turned around with a cold expression. The Prince of the East Prince said angrily, why did you knock our maid unconscious while you were on the carriage? They originally thought they had recorded everything, but who knew that after they entered Tahi prison, Chen Qian went to collect the image talisman and found that Zhang Zizai had knocked them unconscious as soon as they entered. Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, I have no choice. These two people don't know their dignity and are touching me. I can only punish them. I won't argue with you. It's already pretty good. Next time I find the maid, find something more. It's so nice to be honest. When we stay together, we can recite poems and other things, hug each other, and be disheveled. How vulgar. They looked at each other, and Prince Naxi's expression turned completely cold. He said in a deep voice, so, you know about happy ambergris. Zhang Zizai didn't know, but it was probably what they put in the wine. He smiled and said, you are too young. You are just playing all the tricks I have left. It's boring. This made them so angry that they planned carefully, even taking him to the Tahi prison. In the end, everything was in vain, and they were even tricked by Zhang Zizai. You all have distinguished status, but you are a bit stupid and cute. Thank you for bringing me here today. I will learn from you all your clever tricks at the 6 palaces gathering. Zhang Zizai said. Shut up, you. Is that your strength? Just because you took first place in the sacrifice temple, in our holy dragon palace, you can't even get into the top 10. They were about to take action, but Prince 11 Wang stopped them and said, don't worry, there will be plenty of opportunities for him to cry at the grand gathering of the 6 palaces. Now that people are being bullied here, it won't sound good if word spreads out. Moreover, the grand gathering of the 6 prefectures is the day after tomorrow, and it will arrive in a while. Zhang Zizai, Lu Dingxing, come here. Prince 11 Wang got on the carriage, then took out a transparent crystal box, held it in his chest, and said, my father asked me to make this, you know it is made of. What are you here for? Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing did not speak. The Prince of the West laughed dumbly and said, after Emperor Hushan's Emperor Wumen, Lu Yuan is beheaded, his head will be placed on this crystal box and hung in the Emperor Wumen for 7 days and 7 nights for the public to visit. When the time comes, you should come and take a good look. Take a look at the criminal's demeanor. Lu Dingxing's eyes were filled with fire. Zhang Zizai stopped him, his eyes even colder. The time to take action is not now. Prince 11 continued with a smile, my father also asked me to make another one. Next time I will ask someone to use better materials, because my father said that Zhang Junjian's head may be hung up for a month. Ha ha. They laughed wildly, and even Xiang Luiying couldn't help laughing. When I came back in the middle of the night, I opened the door and saw Juxian wearing only a thin gauze, sitting on the bed, looking at me resentfully. Why did my husband come back just now? The whole family is so anxious to see what's going on. That charming look, every frown, and red lips, is indeed much more thrilling than those beauties in the West Prince's palace. Don't tempt me. I've been tempted too much tonight. Be careful of my bestiality. Zhang Zizai was afraid that if he looked at her a few more times, he would be intoxicated, so he could only look away. Hey, who dares to seduce my husband? Let's talk about it. Zhang Zizai told what happened. Ambergris? I've heard of it. Rumor has it that the medicine is quite powerful. Fortunately, you are smart enough. Otherwise, I, a little cabbage, would have been beaten by a bunch of pigs. Juxian smiled softly. Those pigs are not as plump as you. I didn't like them, otherwise I would have taken the initiative to drink them. Zhang Zizai said. I'm fat, she was shocked by this adjective. The two laughed and laughed for a while, and then Juxian gently took his hand and asked thoughtfully, how do you feel when you see your brother? Zhang Zizai was silent for a moment. He held Juxian's hand, rubbed it gently, and said slowly, he wants to live. For Zhang Zizai, this is his biggest motivation. The grandchildren of these princes, prime ministers, dukes, etc. are all bitches. Don't be like them. I know, this account will be settled together during the grand gathering of the 6 houses. Zhang Zizai took off the long yew sword from his back and placed it on the edge of the bed. Start practicing. Okay, master, please give your little daji orders as you please, Juxian said delicately with mist in his eyes. Hit yourself? What, do you want to hit yourself? The grand meeting of the 6 governments has arrived as scheduled. The huge city of Yanlong Ruins has been preparing for this day for a long time. It is like a huge flower that blooms unprecedentedly on this day. The entire Yanlong Ruins fell into unprecedented liveliness and prosperity. Last night was a lantern festival, people were playing around, and it was very lively. But early this morning, they woke up early and gathered in the huge square Huangguomen outside the palace. Huangguomen is the main entrance of the palace. Inside is the palace, and outside is the outer city of Yanlongxiu. There is a city wall surrounding the Huangguo gate, and now a large number of people are gathering on the outer city wall, looking down at the vast square in front of the Huangguo gate. Many grand events, especially those involving the royal family and the people, will be held at Huangguo gate. At this time, everyone is having fun. This location is the place where the most influential people in the entire Yanlong dynasty are born. Many proud sons of heaven have become famous here. On this day, Huangguo gate was crowded with people. Talented people from the entire dynasty came to Yanlong Ruins just to admire the style of the 6 most grand schools in the dynasty. This duel also demonstrated the highest level of the young men and women in the dynasty. Even other small countries would send people to watch the battle. They mixed in the crowd and patiently waited for the start of the super event held once every 5 years. Most of those who could see the scene were totem warriors. Real mortals could only listen to the sound outside. So many people gathered outside Huangguo gate. On this day, Zhang Zizai stood on the wall of Huangguo gate. In front of him was the square of Huangguo gate. When he turned around and looked behind him, it was the Yanlong Palace. A place with overwhelming power. A place that he now hates. The people who worshipped the temple were led by the Xinjiao god servant. Most of the Yuanqing and priests came to maintain order. Zhang Zizai and others had already taken their seats. Their seats were on the walls of Huangguo Gate, at the highest position, overlooking the city. The temple was the first to arrive, and their entry was naturally cheered by the crowd. No matter what, apart from the level of the school, the temple still had the most important part: worshipping the ancient gods. This was the source of people's admiration. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 135. Looking at the huge crowds and the overwhelming momentum, Zhang Zizai could imagine how glorious it was when Zhang Junjian won the first place in the Six Prefectures Festival. This is the biggest stage in the entire dynasty. It is the place where countless proud sons of heaven desire to become famous. A peerless genius, born out of nowhere, famous all over the world, who doesn't want to be him? There are countless onlookers, burning eyes, and countless scrutinizing eyes. As a participant in the Six Prefectures Festival, the first to enter the temple naturally attracted a lot of attention, and even their respective information has been made into booklets and sold everywhere. People took the booklets and compared the names, realms, and totems to analyze today's battle situation. In contrast, the 15 disciples sent by the sacrifice temple are actually ranked at the bottom, and are far behind the other 5 schools. It is incredible that they have fallen to this point. In fact, it is not difficult to understand. The sacrifice temple has more civilian geniuses, while the Holy Dragon Palace is the most elite royal children. The Guardian Palace accepts descendants of dignitaries, and other schools also cooperate with the 9 major clans. Only the sacrifice temple can't let go of its face, so the top geniuses are indeed getting fewer and fewer. From the list, Zhang Zizai is still registered at the 3rd level of the mysterious Vein Realm, and his most brilliant record is defeating Nangong Shuiying and Yang'el. The top 3 are only at the 3rd level of the mysterious Vein Realm, and there is even a Wuming Realm. Comparing them, the cards played by the sacrifice temple this time are indeed shockingly bad. No wonder the Star God Servant had to take all the disciples to Kiri's Hima for training before. Knowing that they were so weak, even the Star God Servant must have been anxious. If the sacrifice temple does not change its strategy, it will be troublesome in the future. They can't change it, because the top talents are in the royal family. In the Holy Dragon Palace. Discussions like this can be said to exist all the time, and there are probably thousands of them going on at the same time. Zhang Zizai is also familiar with the information of all opponents. He naturally knows that from the cards, the Holy Dragon Palace is definitely the first, and it has suppressed other academies to a great extent. The 6 major academies are equivalent to being divided into 3 echelons. The Holy Dragon Palace, alone in an echelon, is the first echelon. The other 4 are the second echelon. The Sacrifice Temple, alone in the 3rd echelon, is really miserable. It is inevitable that many people are particularly worried about the performance of the Sacrifice Temple today, because in history, the Sacrifice Temple has never lost the first place in the 6 Prefectures Festival. Perhaps, history will be broken by new forces today. The royal family is really getting stronger and stronger. In fact, the last time, the Sacrifice Temple also relied on Zhang Junjian alone to turn the tide and narrowly won the first place. This time, we are not so lucky. Although this young Prince Zhang Zizai seems to be on the list, and it is said that he is now the first disciple of the Sacrifice Temple, looking at his realm, he is still a step behind the top figures in other academies. At that time, Zhang Junjian's realm was the first, equivalent to today's Princess Shenxiao. What will be the outcome of the 6-mansion event? In fact, people have a little guess, and the result will not deviate too much. The prediction of the results has been carried out a month ago. At that time, the information of Zhang Zizai and others was recorded in detail and distributed for sale. Someone from the Holy Dragon Palace is coming. Everyone looked up and saw a huge golden dragon suddenly flying from the east. After a closer look, they found that it was a flying dragon boat, which landed above the Huangguo Gate. Thousands of people from the Holy Dragon Palace jumped off the boat and landed in their position in a high-profile manner, just opposite the sacrifice temple. The sacrifice temple is simple and natural, while the Holy Dragon Palace is domineering and enthusiastic. There is indeed an invisible confrontation between them. Star God Servant, you are here really early. Aren't the other two God Servant coming today? When the Holy Dragon Palace took their seats, a man sat in the highest position. He was wearing a light golden dragon robe, solemn and serious, with a pair of eagle eyes that were very narrow and long, and his eyes were piercing. This person was the palace master of the Holy Dragon Palace, known as Prince Yang, and the younger brother of the Flame Dragon Emperor. Of course, he was not really crowned as a king, and his status was different from that of the four Flame Dragon Kings. Those two must worship the ancient gods all the time. I am the only one who can take charge of the teaching affairs of the temple, the Star God Servant said coldly with a veil on his face. That's right. Someone must worship the ancient gods. Those two have done a great deed, Prince Yang nodded. Next to him, a young man sat upright. He was about the same age as Zhang Junjian. He was also wearing a light golden dragon robe and a dragon crown. His eyes were as red as gold, very warm. There was something evil between his eyebrows. When he was serious, he was full of momentum. Although he was a young man, his momentum was comparable to that of Prince Yang next to him. It was the imperial aura cultivated in a noble position for many years. Long Yun, meet the God Servant. The man bowed slightly and saluted the Star God Servant. It turned out that he was the crown prince of the dynasty. The word Yun means both civil and military, and the word Bei means wealth. This is what Emperor Yanlong expected when he named her. The future ruler of a country needs to be like this. However, Zhang Zizai still feels that Princess Shengxiao's word means the sun and the moon in the sky, which is actually more domineering. This is the ninth child, representing Emperor Yanlong's completely different state of mind at that time. For the first child, he wanted the country to be rich and the people to be strong. For the ninth child, he wanted to be like the sun and the moon, shining on the world. Your Highness, why are you joining in the fun today? It's a pity that the prince was defeated in the last 6 prefectures' grand meetings in Jo, Divine Servant said lightly. That time, Zhang Junjian defeated him and became the first in the 6 prefectures' grand meeting, shocking the world. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Facing the sharpness in the words of the Star God Servant, Prince Long Yun smiled slightly and said, it's really not a pity. Zhang Junjian is indeed better than me. Now that I think about it, I am convinced of my defeat. As for why I joined in the fun today, I actually didn't want to come, but my father insisted that I be the executioner. The emperor ordered me to be the executioner, so I naturally followed his orders. Executioner. Next to Zhang Zizai, Lu Dingxian gritted his teeth. Next to Prince Long Yun, there were Princess Shenxiao, the Northern Prince, the Eastern Prince, and the Western Prince. Among them, the Western Prince took out a crystal box, placed it on his seat, and smiled in the direction of Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai was too lazy to look at him. He and Princess Shenxiao exchanged a glance. The latter obviously didn't know that he already knew the truth. She smiled apologetically, probably thinking that she was busy recently, so she didn't have time to go to the temple to find him. Zhang Zizai wouldn't settle the account until the time came. She didn't know, which was just right. She was so vicious, let's see who can laugh last and who can trick whom. This woman still thought Zhang Zizai was in the dark, and her smile still looked pure and moving, continuing to play the role of a young girl who had just begun to fall in love. Even the 3 princes next to her saw her eyes and were secretly angry, thinking that Princess Shenxiao was not like this usually, and Zhang Zizai must have done something. Everything was undercurrent. Then, the team of the National Guard Palace came. They were not as high profile as the Holy Dragon Palace. After sitting down, the owner of the palace, Xuanhuan, the son of the prime minister of the dynasty, took care of the divine servant and Prince Yang. The temperament of this middle-aged man was very similar to Xiang Luiying. He looked like a scholar, elegant and natural, and his inner heart could not be seen. Zhang Zizai saw Zhang Yuning and Dong Yangjing, and they also came and sat together. King Qingluan, when did you come to Yanlongxiu? Prince Yang was sharp-eyed and saw that there was a middle-aged man in blue clothes next to Dong Yangjing. That was the king of the Qingluan clan. Of course, he was called the king of Qingluan, but he was not really crowned king by the dynasty. The 9 major clans were all like this. Only the Purple Scale King was the real king. King Qingluan bowed and said, "It's just right that I came to see my daughter. It's the 6 prefectures grand gathering, so I came to join in the fun and see the style of young talents." Beside Prince Yang, the Crown Prince Long Yun looked over here and smiled. "I didn't expect that Xiaojing has become so beautiful after not seeing her for a few years. There must be many people pursuing Xiaojing in Yanlongxiu and Huguovu." King Qingluan said seriously, "Prince, I have strict discipline and Xiaojing is also very sensible. As for the marriage, naturally listen to my arrangements. If there is a real young talent pursuing her and we are in love, I will naturally make it happen." Crown Prince Long Yun smiled and said, "Really? But I have heard some rumors, I don't know if it is true or not." King Qingluan was startled. The people were originally noisy, and suddenly heard the Crown Prince talking, and they stretched their ears for a while. "What do you mean, King Qingluan?" The prince said, "It's just some rumors. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's better not to say it." "Prince, please speak up," it's all said. "There's no reason not to speak up." So Long Yun was a little embarrassed and said, "I heard that Xiaojing and Zhang Junjian secretly decided to spend their lives together, but everyone knows that Zhang Junjian is an important suspect of the dynasty. If the facts are investigated, he will definitely be executed. If the two get along, it's naturally not appropriate. Of course, these are all unfounded rumors. Xiaojing only needs to clarify it today. I believe no one will say anything more, right?" He smiled and looked at Dong Yangjing. King Qingluan immediately turned back to look at Dong Yangjing, his face shocked. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 136. The 6 prefectures grand meeting has not started yet, but the Crown Prince Long Yun has instantly set off the atmosphere. He dared to say it here in person, not giving much face to King Qingluan. Obviously he was very sure in his heart. The current Zilan king's family, the powerful clans of the entire dynasty, dare not have any intersection with them, let alone maintain such a relationship with Zhang Junjian in Taiyi prison. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamond suit. The face of King Qingluan sank, and he said, "It is probably just a rumor. My daughter and Zhang Junjian have hardly had any contact. Xiaojing, since the Crown Prince has asked, you just need to clarify it. After all, this rumor damages your reputation." There was a strong suppression in his eyes. With his status, he naturally knew that this was the fact, but no matter what, this kind of thing only needs Dong Yangjing to clarify it here. The Prince Long Yun smiled knowingly and said, "Indeed, I also heard these rumors and felt that they were not good for Xiaojing, so I brought up this matter to give Xiaojing a chance to clarify in public. We can't let the rumors spread anymore." People's eyes fell on Dong Yangjing. She didn't expect to receive so much attention today. People saw that there was a stunning beauty beside her, that was Zhang Yuning from the great Zhongqing city, so they felt that the so-called rumors were not impossible. This prince must have taken a fancy to Dongyang Jing. He forced her to consider her parents' face and clarify herself. In the future, he will have a chance to ask the Flame Dragon Emperor to arrange a marriage. Juxian leaned against Zhang Zizai and said. Really? This guy, who has been defeated by my brother many times, wants to grab everything. Zhang Zizai knew that Dong Yangjing must be in a difficult situation now. On the one hand, there was the oppression of the prince and the reputation of his parents, and on the other hand, there was Zhang Junjian. Suddenly, she was forced into a desperate situation. Under the spotlight of the crowd, Dong Yangjing stood up under the pressure of the eyes of the Qingluan king. She was a little dazed, glanced at the Qingluan king and the crown prince Long Yun, gritted her teeth, and said, I didn't expect that my private affairs would attract so many people's attention today. I'm really sorry. Long Yun smiled and said, Don't blame me, Xiaojing, I am also worried that you will be harassed by rumors, so I think about you. Thank you for your concern. Crown Prince Dong Yangjing smiled slightly, then turned to everyone and said with a firm look in her eyes, to be honest, Zhang Junjian and I are really in love, and this is not a rumor. No matter what the future holds, this fact will not change. For a while, there was silence. The smiles on the faces of the Qingluan king and the crown prince suddenly froze. They looked at Dong Yangjing in shock. They didn't expect that she would say such a thing. Pa, the Qingluan king slapped her in the face, and it was red and swollen. Dad, I'm sorry. Tears fell from Dong Yangjing's eyes, but she still kept a smile on her face. Everyone, I didn't discipline my daughter well. I'm ashamed. I'll take my leave first. King Qingluan grew wings on his back, picked up Dong Yangjing, and flew out of here without looking back. It was probably back to Qingluan County. After this time, it would be even more difficult for Dong Yangjing to come back. People were silent, watching this farce. In imagination, Dong Yangjing should clarify here regardless of whether it was true or not. No one expected that under her weak appearance, she was so rebellious. King Qingluan's face was really lost. Even the prince's face was quite unpleasant. Beside him, Prince Yang, the master of the Holy Dragon Palace, shook his head and said, You wanted to get it done in one go, but you underestimated her temperament. Now you've pushed her into a desperate situation. It also made King Qingluan lose face, which will be inconvenient in the future. The prince curled his lips and said, I didn't expect that Dong Yangjing would be so ignorant. However, if I really want to take a concubine, King Qingluan will still cooperate. It's just a matter of a word from my father. Still can't let go of the knot of competing with Zhang Junjian, Prince Yang asked with a smile. What's the point of competing with a dead person? I really like her. Isn't she beautiful? The prince asked. Beautiful. Prince Yang lowered his head, adjusted his clothes, and smiled all the time. Everyone saw it. That was a strong woman who was willing to fight against her parents and power for love. Such a woman can only be found in legends and stories, and people naturally admire her. Therefore, not many people think that Dong Yangjing and Zhang Junjian are a joke. It's just that after this change, it will be very difficult for them to be together again. Not to mention the Qingluan clan, the roadblocks, and obviously the Yanlong royal family. This is destined to be a love that will not have a result, and it can only be regretted. Juxian said seriously, Your brother's vision is really good. In such an occasion, he dares to face everything and say such words. People admire him. Zhang Zizai nodded. He knew that no one thought that she and her brother would have a result now, but he firmly believed that time would give the answer. The woman wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and faced everything with a smile. It really made people see her heart. If your parents hinder us, will you break up with them? Juxian asked with a smile. This kind of question is a trap. Zhang Zizai said, My parents will not hinder my decision, so your question cannot exist. If your mother and I fall into the water, Which one will you save first? Juxian continued to ask. Save you. So sensible? Why? My mother is not afraid of water. If she saves you, maybe she can take advantage of it. A century-old problem was easily solved by Zhang Zizai. When they were talking, Dong Yangjing's little turmoil had passed. Except for the sacrifice temple and the Holy Dragon Palace, other members of the 6 prefectures arrived one after another. The 6 prefectures' grand event was about to start, and people immediately focused their attention on the competition between the 6 prefectures. The third group to arrive was the Xianbing Pavilion, whose master was named Jun Bajian, nicknamed Blind Sword God. It is said that he was blind when he was young, but this suffering did not defeat him. Relying on his peerless willpower and tenacity, he explored the sword path and rose all the way to achieve the peerless status of one of the 6 prefecture masters today, and is a role model for many totem martial artists. He is a cold person. After arriving, he didn't say a word and didn't even bother to say hello. Xianbing Pavilion brings together many weapon totems in the world. Among the 9 major clans, the Shenbing clan and the Wanjian clan also have many disciples practicing in it. Next to the Jun Bajian, there sat a young man named Dongfang Jianyi. He was the only disciple of Jun Bajian. He had the same experience as Jun Bajian, and was also blind at a young age. Now he is likely to become the next blind sword god. He was also a popular figure in the 6 prefectures festival. His realm was the 4th level of the mysterious veins realm. He possessed the earth level totem sky-splitting divine sword totem. Zhang Zizai also saw the information of Dongfang Jianyi. He possessed the moon level totem weapon Star River killing sword, which was quite powerful and was a strong opponent this time. After the Xianbing Pavilion, the people from the Blue Sea Palace also arrived. The palace master of the Blue Sea Palace was a woman named Lan Feiyu. Although she was over 50, she looked like she was in her 30s. She still had a charming demeanor and a pair of light blue eyes that were particularly attractive. At this age, she was still attractive to all men, which was really rare. It is said that the position of the palace master of the Blue Sea Palace is hereditary, and it is passed down to daughters, not sons. The top disciple of the Blue Sea Palace who is now participating in the war is called Lan Ying, who is actually the granddaughter of Lan Feiyu. Of course, their family only looks for sons-in-law who come to live with the family. Lan Ying inherited the tradition of the elders of the family. Their Blue Sea Palace has been full of beauties for generations. The girl Lan Ying is also very attractive, smart, and fresh, like a gem in the ocean. Among the 9 major clans, the smallest one is the Blue Whale clan. In fact, the Blue Whale clan is the lineage of the palace master of the Blue Sea Palace. From a certain perspective, the Blue Sea Palace and the Blue Whale clan actually overlap. This also shows the long history of the Blue Whale clan. Next, other important characters will appear. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 137. Under people's gaze, the last palace of the 6 Palaces Festival, the Palace of 10,000 Beasts, arrived belatedly. In addition to paying attention to the Holy Dragon Palace and the Protectorate Palace, Zhang Zizai also paid special attention to the Palace of 10,000 Beasts. Because, there is a certain relationship between the Palace of 10,000 Beasts and the Kailan royal family in Daejiang City. In fact, there was no relationship originally, but in the past few decades, there has been a relationship. The reason is that the current owner of the Palace of 10,000 Beasts, Zhang'an, has a huge relationship with the Kailan royal family. Once upon a time, the Kailan royal family actually had 6 lines. However, as history went by, one of the lines not only betrayed the royal family due to some changes, but also gradually declined, and finally lost all contact with the Kailan royal family. That is the Black Kailan clan. The Black Kailan clan is very rare today, but in recent times, a key figure has emerged, and that is Zhang'an, who has become the palace master of the 10,000 Beasts Palace. Zhang was a few years older than Zhang Yunting. Although he was a genius and had the momentum to lead the Black Kailan clan to a new beginning, compared with Zhang Yunting, he was still a little behind. He once wanted to return to the Kailan royal clan and become the king of the royal family, but was defeated by Zhang Yunting. Zhang Yunting invited him to lead the Black Kailan clan to rejoin the Kailan royal clan, but he also refused. He didn't want to be controlled by others. In this palace of beasts, he felt very comfortable as the palace master. It can be said that among all the totem martial arts masters who possess the Kailan totem, except Zhang Yunting, Zhang is the most powerful, and he is also the most influential figure in Zhang Yunting's generation today. Zhang is arrogant and unruly, and difficult to control. He has great ambitions for this Six Palaces event. The Palace of 10,000 Beasts was not even one of the six palaces before. It was he who forced this declining academy to become one of the six palaces in the past 10 years. He stood up and re-entered the ranks of the six schools, squeezing out other schools. This time, he also wants to improve his ranking. Zhang has met you all. I'm late. I'm sorry. He slightly cupped his hands and then sat down, his posture relatively high. Now that everyone is here, let's start. Zhang looked around and asked. The time has not come yet. Don't be too anxious, Palace Master Zhang. Prince Yang's eyes fell on a black-haired boy next to Zhang. The boy was dressed in black and had a similar figure and appearance to Zhang. He is also very handsome, but a little darker, with an obvious unruly look in his eyes. His expression and will are like a younger version of Zhang. Prince Yang said, it depends on the situation. Before the grand meeting of the six prefectures, did your son Zhang Wu make some progress? Zhang laughed and said, the prince indeed has a vicious vision. Wu recently obtained the source of evolution and evolved the totem to a heaven-level totem. There is also a level of realm, reaching the 4th level. As soon as these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. This was the only change recorded on the roster. When Zhang Wu was at the 3rd level of the mysterious vein realm, he said that his combat power was equivalent to that of the 4th level of the mysterious vein realm. Now, not only has his totem evolved to the heaven level, but he has also broken through to the 4th level of the mysterious vein realm. Maybe, has the strength to challenge Princess Shenxiao. With so many participants in the war, only Princess Shenxiao is a heaven-level totem, and the others are earth-level totems. From this point of view, if Zhang Wu's strength is stable enough, he should be second only to Princess Shenxiao. Compared with the princes, should have an advantage. For a moment, the young man in black became the focus of everyone's attention. He particularly enjoyed the gaze. At this time, he actually opened his mouth and asked, His Royal Highness is here today. Wu has a small question and I would like to ask His Highness for confirmation. Long Yun smiled and said, just say it. Zhang Wu glanced at Princess Shenxiao next to him, with a smile on his lips, and said, I heard that His Majesty promised that whoever defeats Princess Shenxiao will become the consort, but is it true? Everyone laughed dumbly. Zhang Wu's thoughts were directly expressed. No one knew what he was thinking. Arrogant and direct. The prince also smiled and said, to be honest, this is just a casual saying by the emperor. I can't guarantee whether you will do it or not. But if you really have the ability to conquer my proud sister, I dare to say, your chances are obviously going to be pretty good. In this case, I will not let His Majesty, His Highness, and Princess down. After Zhang Wu finished speaking, he returned to his father's side. Don't be offended by the young and frivolous boy. Young people still need some arrogance. Zhang laughed. Prince Yang of the Holy Dragon Palace said, yes, he has the demeanor of the former palace master Zhang. I heard that there is a young man from the Kailan tribe today named Zhang Zizai. It seems that the Kailan royal family has reached the moment of revival, and talents have emerged in large numbers. The young man Zhang Wu stood up again and said, Palace Master, This is wrong. Why is there a difference? Zhang Guiu said, first, I have read the information about this person. Although he is the son of King Zilan, he does not even have a Kailan totem, so he cannot be considered a Kailan clan. Second, the Kailan clan has indeed declined, especially the other five. The Pulse Kailan is terrible. The future of the Kailan royal clan will depend on the rise of our Black Kailan clan. It's not yet certain who will be the real king. Prince Yang laughed dumbly and said, little guy, you are quite good at talking. However, the Kailan royal family has a long history and has contributed to the dynasty for generations. You young people are needed to shoulder the heavy responsibility of revival. What they said was not inappropriate for the existence of the temple of sacrifice. After all, Zhang Zizhe was still the strongest disciple on the roster of the temple of sacrifice. Originally, the palace of 10,000 beasts was predicted to be second from the bottom, but now Zhang Guiu has reached the top in one step, leading a stronger team, and may be able to move up from 5th place. Arrogant the Prince of the West laughed coldly and said to the two princes beside him, when the game starts, let's focus on Zhang Guiu and destroy him. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Want to defeat the princess? Hee. In terms of status, Zhang Guiu can't compare with them. They don't care about competing with them. The only competitors in their eyes are each other. Now they are united only because of Zhang Zizhe. May I ask Zhang Guiu, what heaven-level totem have you evolved to? Unexpectedly, the main character of the topic, the Princess Shenxiao, who was sitting high above, actually spoke. Zhang Guiu was full of confidence and said, I was training outside and accidentally got the 3rd level evolution source 8 wings. Now it has evolved to the 8-winged Black Kirin totem. It's actually 8 wings. People were shocked again. They should have estimated Zhang Guiu's strength. Maybe he will really be the only challenger of Princess Shenxiao today. Although Dongfang Jianyi, Xiang Luiying and others are all at the 4th level of the Xuanmei realm, they are only Earth-level totems after all. Prince Yang looked at the time and said, I will host this 6 prefectures grand meeting. Now the time has come. Are all the participating disciples ready? Hearing Prince Yang's words, the people became nervous. Some of them have been waiting here for several days. It has finally begun. 6 prefectures grand meeting, start, raise the maze. Under the command of Prince Yang, the ground of the huge square in the center was shaking at this time, and then huge cracks appeared. Standing on a high place, you can see that the wide area of the entire Huangguomen square has actually risen up one wall after another. Those tall and heavy steel walls are combined together to form a huge maze like a steel cage. This is an important thing in the 6 prefectures grand meeting, called Maze Battlefield. There are 2 battles in the 6 prefectures grand meeting. The first 6-party group battle is in this maze battlefield. Zhang Zizhe stood on a high place and quickly memorized the route of the maze. At that time, their team would enter it. The spectators on the city wall could see their position in the maze and the battle situation clearly, but they could not see the whole picture in the maze. Even if there were enemies approaching, the audience knew it, but they themselves did not know it. This maze battlefield only rises from the ground once every 5 years. Participants are prohibited from crawling or flying on the walls of the maze battlefield, otherwise they will be eliminated and their results will be invalidated. Inside the maze, the surrounding walls are complex and heavy, and they cannot be broken at all. The 18 teams from the 6 prefectures will enter the maze battlefield one after another and start a fierce competition. The young men are already full of confidence and ready to meet the challenge. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 138. Zhang Zizhe quickly memorized this complicated maze clearly. After entering, he had a rough overview of the overall situation. When he looked up, he saw countless eyes all around, staring at the nearly 100 young people. This scene was much bigger than in Daejiang King City. This is the grand stage. It is a place where countless heroes have risen, and their every move is watched by hundreds of thousands of people, including many totem warriors and many elites. Those eyes are part of the pressure in itself. The disciples who participated in the battle came out to receive the Dragon Pearl and the Ascension Talisman. The first game of 100 Dragons Seize the Pearl will begin immediately. This battle between hundreds of dragons to seize the pearl is actually somewhat similar to Kirishima's competition. This is the reason why the Divine Attendant chose Kirishima. In the Kirishima trial, each team had a sacrificial flag, while in the 100 dragons seizing the pearl, everyone had a dragon ball in their hand. Dragon balls must be placed in a conspicuous location where they can be easily snatched. 18 teams, a total of 90 dragon balls. Each person takes a dragon ball and enters the maze battlefield. Finally, the total number of dragon balls in each of the 6 palaces is calculated and the ranking of the 6 palaces in the first game is determined. The 15 of them, Zhangzizai and Nangang Shuiying, all represented the sacrificial temple, and the final tally was their total number. 15 people are divided into 3 teams to enter the battlefield, but if they can meet in the maze battlefield, they can gather together, which is equivalent to entering 15 disciples and fighting for the pearl. The specific rules are very similar to the Battle of Kirishima. The Ascension Talisman is the symbol of elimination. In the last grand gathering of the 6 prefectures, the Sacrifice Temple came first, so this time the Sacrifice Temple goes first. The 15 disciples of the Sacrifice Temple will be divided into 3 groups and enter from the east, west, and south gates respectively. Zhangzizai and the others had already heard the order. With such a rapid voice and all the eyes on them, the teenagers were inevitably nervous, especially Ruo Xiaoyu. She was the only one in the martial arts realm and the youngest. Let's go. Zhangzizai led his team, a group of 5 people, to the south. They came down the stairs, and walked into the maze battlefield from the south gate in the midst of everyone's attention and great momentum. After entering, there are tall walls all around. The walls are 10 feet high, but you can't jump on them, otherwise you will give up. Before coming in, they received 5 dragon balls. It was a small red ball, which should have been forged from some kind of spiritual mine, with the flame dragon totem engraved on it. Disciples of the Holy Dragon Palace, enter. Zhangzizai heard the sound. Princess Shenxiao and the others would come in soon. Princess Shenxiao and the 3 princes are in a group. There are 4 people in total. Who is the other person? Ruo Xiaoyu asked. This team is said to be the strongest, all of them are at level 4 or higher of the mysterious vein realm, and Princess Shenxiao is at the 5th level of the mysterious vein realm. Zhangzizai recalled for a moment, and then remembered the girl with black hair and blood-eyed eyes, and said, "It's Princess Lingxian, she is also at the 4th level, but she is 1 year younger than Shenxiao." This princess is very low-key, Ruo Xiaoyu said. Zhangzizai didn't tell them about Princess Shengxiao's Zaiyu. Currently, only Lu Dingxing and Juxian know about it. In this maze battlefield, you can hear the heavy breathing of countless onlookers above. Obviously they are all extremely nervous, because all the next 18 teams have entered the field. In this huge maze battlefield, you can't feel the presence of other people. Completely unaware, danger ambush all around. Sure enough, Prince Yang's thrilling voice came. The grand gathering of the 6 palaces, where hundreds of dragons compete for the pearl, starts from now. It lasts for 1 stick of incense in total, and it will stop when the incense is burned. The time to burn an incense stick is actually very short, only about half an hour. The competition and battle here are much more intense than the Kirishima trial. Wow! At the beginning, some people exclaimed that some teams must have passed by or directly bumped into each other. Zhangzizai's eyes were calm, he stretched out his hand, and the other 4 people handed the dragon ball into his hand. As I said, take out the Ascension Talisman, Zhangzizai said. Boss, are you sure you want this? Bai Shenjin asked. Believe me. Then, an unexpected scene appeared. Before Prince Yang announced the start, a total of 4 ascension talismans rose into the sky before even 10 breaths had passed. Who crushed the ascension talisman? This is a direct abstention. For a moment, everyone in the Huangguo sect was stunned. This kind of thing has never happened in the Six Houses Grand Conference so far. It's the team of King Zilan's youngest son Zhang Zizai. This is the weakest team. It also contains the first level of Martial Life Realm and Xuanmei Realm. It's them. Since you have to abstain directly, why do you choose to participate in the war? Isn't this a waste of quota? You didn't even communicate well with the Temple of Sacrifice. I guess the divine attendant Xin Yao has been tricked by Zhang Zizai. He is here to cause trouble. People were speechless. In fact, inside the Temple of Sacrifice, there was also fierce normalcy at this time, and many priests were already red-faced. Master Divine Attendant, this Zhang Zizi is clearly teasing us with such childish play. The 4 places will be eliminated directly. If they are given to others, they can win more Dragon Balls for us, and Ran's face turned livid with anger. 9 Immortals, you knew your priests would do this, why didn't you tell them earlier? Feng Qingxian asked. Zhu Xian curled his lips and said, shut up, please. Just watch for a stick of incense. What else can you change? Over there, Prince Yang said with a smile, some disciples of the sacrifice temple have withdrawn early. It's better to pick up the eliminated ones as soon as possible. Juxian was very cool and fell into the maze, and soon brought Lu Dingxing and the others out. Xinjiao God servant frowned and asked, is it Zhang Zizai's arrangement? This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Baishan Jin said, don't worry, God servant, it's more convenient for him to be alone now. If you don't believe it, just watch it. Sit down, the God servant waved her hand. Anyway, the Dragon Ball has not been lost yet, but Zhang Zizai made this decision without discussing it with her, so she naturally couldn't be happy. If it messed up in the end, she might be even more unhappy. Haha, watching us worship the temple and being laughed at by countless people? Look at the mocking eyes of those people. Feng Qingxian was speechless. She couldn't understand why the God servant didn't punish him even though he was so reckless. For example, Wan Qian, his arc vision is still quite useful. In this maze battlefield, he can screen enemies for Zhang Zizai. Just like the Kiri's Hima trial, he may not lose to his opponent in the number of Dragon Balls in the end, but I didn't expect that Zhang Zizai was so confident that he didn't even need Wan Qian. However, the Ascension Talisman has been used, and there is really no way to change this fact. When the battle happened in the maze battlefield, everyone's attention was immediately attracted, and naturally no one paid attention to this episode. Moreover, people's sight is rarely focused on Zhang Zizai alone, because it is difficult to see him again. He is really hidden in the dark night and has become a killer. The dragon ghost sword in his hand has transformed into a light sword state, which is thin and sharp, and can easily tear everything apart. He is one man and one sword, and he is moving rapidly in the corner of the maze battlefield, using his powerful soul power to find people around him. It is not too difficult for the 18 teams to meet, and you can even vaguely hear the battle next to the wall, but the maze is a maze. It may be quite difficult to go to the other side of the wall. I don't know how many circles you have to go around. Zhang Zizai walked forward with a sword like a night hunter. He looked up at the sky. The sky was very narrow and he could no longer see the countless people and strange eyes outside. Today is destined to be a memorable day in his life. Princess Shen Xiao. Zhang Zizai no longer wanted to call her Xiao Zhao. When they met again today, he knew that she was no longer the same as she was when she was 6 years old. Then you're welcome. Lightning gradually appeared in his legs. As he walked, lightning and thunder began to flash. That was the skill he mastered, the lightning storm, which was comparable to the moon-level combat tactics. This was Zhang Zizai's most terrifying weapon in the 100 Dragons seizing the pearl. Whoosh! There was a sound in front, and Zhang Zizai quickly stepped forward. After crossing a corner, he saw 5 people. One of them was a dark and tall boy with a proud face and full of murderous aura. It was Zhang Wu. Unexpectedly, I ran into him so soon. In his team, there were 3 people in the 3rd level of Xuanmei realm and 1 in the 2nd level of Xuanmei realm. The dragon balls on their bodies were still preserved. Zhang Zizai was the first enemy they encountered. Zhang Wu saw him and asked, "Who are you? Why are you alone?" Zhang Zizai stood in place and said, "It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that I have 5 dragon balls on me." He showed his dragon balls. Zhang Wu smiled and said, "Very smart. Although I don't know who you are, thank you for your gift." Zhang Zizai shook the dragon ball and said, "Don't brag. Let's talk about it when you catch up with me." Zhang Wu smiled. For him, except for Princess Shenxiao, there was no one he couldn't catch up with. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 139. Zhang Wu didn't expect to meet such an interesting person. He acted alone, carrying 5 dragon balls. He suddenly remembered that at the beginning, he saw that 4 ascension talismans had been used. At that time, he could vaguely hear some discussions. "I remember, you are Zhang Zizai." He approached Zhang Zizai, with a wicked smile on his lips. "Son of a sinner, the shame of the Kailan clan, I didn't expect to meet you so soon, interesting." Zhang Wu's face was full of a smile belonging to a hunter. He gradually approached Zhang Zizai, clearly seeing him as prey. Zhang Zizai frowned slightly and looked at him. It seems that this guy still has deep hostility towards him. With the competition between his father Zhang and Zhang Yunting, it can actually be understood. His father must have instilled in him the idea of surpassing Zhang Yunting's children on weekdays. Now that they have met Zhang Zizai, if they can crush Zhang Zizai, it will increase the reputation of the Black Kirin clan. Maybe in the future, they want to return to the Kirin royal family and even become kings. Zhang An's heart is known to everyone, especially after the time of King Zilan's desolate heaven pass. In this way, the encounter between Zhang Wu, the genius boy, and Zhang Zizai instantly became full of highlights. "I'm sorry to ask you a question, please don't be angry." Zhang Wu smiled, and before Zhang Zizai nodded, he raised his voice and said, "Your father is a Kirin totem, and your mother is a peony totem. Why are you a dragon totem? Could it be that you are not the biological child of King Zilan? Princess Ruohua, you are a little indecent." After speaking, he laughed loudly, and the people behind him also laughed and bent over. Zhang Zizai has some reverse scales that must not be touched. Zhang Wu's words have touched his bottom line. Many strong men can actually hear it, and at this time they can only smile. Zhang Zizai took a deep look at the unruly Zhang Wu, and he suddenly turned around and left. Want to leave? Zhang Wu couldn't bear to part with the 5 dragon balls, so he instantly turned into a black shadow and chased after him. Chase, the other 4 teenagers also followed suddenly. Most of them were black unicorn totems, only one was not. Now the 10,000 Beasts Palace is basically the world of the Black Unicorn clan. Compare speed with me, hee. Zhang Wu is best at speed. At this moment, he is like a 4-legged beast, using his hands and feet, like a cheetah, rolling between the ground and the wall, stabbing at Zhang Zizai like a sword. This is the first focus area. They don't know that at least 3/4 of the people are looking at them at this time. This is a duel between the Unicorn clan, traitors, and orthodoxy. Zhang Wu's speed is really terrifying. The heaven-level totem has indeed improved too much, many strong men in the 6 palaces were sighing. They also have respected teachers similar to priests, and guest officials similar to Yuan Qing, who are also called Longqing in the Holy Dragon Palace. His ability has caused many powerful people in the Holy Dragon Palace to frown. Is there a chance for the son-in-law? Many people were interested. However, what they saw next was that Zhang Zizai was wrapped in black lightning all over his body, like a person made of thunder. In an instant, the lightning flashed and the person disappeared. There were lightning and thunder around him, and no one knew where he was. This is the moon-level fragmentary body movement lightning storm. Zhang Junjian used it at the 6 prefectures grand meeting. Back then, Zhang Junjian relied on this speed to bring great shock to people. People never expected that this terrifying lightning storm body movement would reappear on Zhang Zizai. In 1 month, he has cultivated to such a level, which is more amazing than Zhang Junjian. Wang Dachuan, who was stationed at the sacrifice tower, opened his mouth wide and was a little stunned. In fact, he was a little unhappy when he saw that Bai Shenjian, who he had cultivated for a month, was directly eliminated. Now after seeing such a lightning storm, his dissatisfaction has been shaken. Sure enough, Zhang Wu's shadow beast body movement could no longer catch up with the lightning storm, and he couldn't even touch its shadow. All he could see was lightning and thunder in front of him, and no one was seen. What a grandson! He ran away so fast. Zhang Wu saw that his 5 dragon balls were gone, and the opportunity to show his strength was gone, so he was naturally a little unhappy. It is said that Zhang Zizai is the number 1 in the sacrifice temple. Defeating this number 1 in the sacrifice temple can bring him great prestige and also bring him capital to challenge Princess Shenxiao. Just when he was unhappy, he never expected that the lightning storm that disappeared in front of him would flash again and thunder and approach him quickly. In the flashing black lightning, he saw the figure of Zhang Zizai. Dare to come back. Before he finished speaking, Zhang Zizai had flashed in front of him, and suddenly a talisman flew quickly. Zhang Wu blocked it, and the talisman was attached to his arm and quickly melted into it. Deceleration talisman. He had read the information and knew that Zhang Zizai was still a totem talisman master, but he could only use the simplest talisman, the acceleration talisman. He didn't expect that the acceleration talisman would be used on himself, but the state of his body told him that this was not an acceleration talisman, but a deceleration talisman. Zhang Zizai passed by him in an instant and ignored him. Are you sick? He felt that Zhang Zizai was teasing him, and turned back quickly, but at this moment he saw that the lightning storm quickly rushed towards the 4 people behind him. 3 people in the 3rd level of the Xuanmei realm, and 1 person in the 2nd level of the Xuanmei realm. Catch him! Zhang Wu could only secretly say that this person was really daring. He had the opportunity to escape, but he actually came back to die. Zhang Wu didn't need to say anything, everyone else knew that they had to besiege Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai's best record was only defeating Yongle and Nangong Shuiying. There were 4 of them now, 3 of them were at the 3rd level of the Xuanmei realm, so of course they were confident. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. At this moment, Zhang Zizai drew out the Lonja sword from his waist. The sharp black blade was as fast as lightning in the lightning storm. Whoosh! He rushed into the center of the crowd, and the 4 people pounced on him fiercely, like 4 wild beasts. Finally a head-on confrontation. People widened their eyes, only to see a black shadow of lightning quickly passing by the 4 people. It was so fast. Swish! The sound of the sword blade tearing the air continued to sound, and it was accompanied by screams. The 4 teenagers fell to the ground quickly within 3 breaths, covering their bleeding thighs and screaming, their faces pale. Each of them had sword wounds on their legs, some were large cuts, and some were pierced, making it impossible for them to stand even if they used drugs to stop bleeding. The remaining chi in the wounds was still wreaking havoc, especially the explosion effect of the Thunder Dragon chi, which blew the wounds into a bloody mess. The painful wails of the 4 teenagers showed the severity of their injuries. It can be said that they lost their combat effectiveness within the stick of incense. No matter how good the panacea was, it would not allow them to participate in the battle within a stick of incense. The sharpness of the dragon ghost sword and the swiftness of the lightning storm were shown to people for the first time. At this moment, Zhang Zizai suddenly appeared, with 4 dragon balls already pinched on his left-hand fingers. Together with the dragon balls he had before, he now had 9 dragon balls on his body. Zhang Wu was slowed down by the deceleration talisman, so he caught up, but when he saw his companions falling to the ground and crying, he could only stare with wide eyes and look at it all in disbelief. Zhang Zizai pointed the thin dragon sword in his hand at him, squinting his eyes and said, "Zhang Wu, I won't deal with you now because I want to save your dish for the last taste. You must hold on until the next game, otherwise, you won't be able to taste the taste of my sword." Instantly after he finished speaking, he struck again with a lightning storm, and disappeared in front of Zhang Wu in the lightning and thunder. From beginning to end, Zhang Wu was sluggish, all this exceeded his imagination. Only the pale faces and painful wails of his companions told him that all this was true. "Zhang Zizai, don't run if you dare." After losing 4 dragon balls, Zhang Wu's face was ashen, and he roared at the surroundings. The only response to him was the echo of the maze battlefield. Zhang Zizai had long disappeared. Zhang Wu knew that he had already lost half of the battle before the duel began. He thought that his only opponent was Shen Xiao, but now he knew that Zhang Zizai's sword was so sharp. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 140. A performance of speed won the attention of hundreds of thousands of dynasty elites. The senior officials of the 6 palaces grand meeting naturally saw clearly the confrontation between the number 1 genius in the palace of all beasts and the temple of sacrifice. Not a single detail was left out. At the same time, this is also a battle of historical grievances within the Kailan royal family. Zhang'an, for example, naturally hopes that his son can brutally torture his opponents. This will bring unprecedented prestige and confidence to the Black Kailan clan. Unfortunately, the result was beyond his expectation. Zhang Zizai's speed reducer had already submitted the information in advance. "Papa," someone suddenly applauded at the top of the 6th mansion. It turned out to be the master of the Xianbing Pavilion, the blind sword god Junpei. His ears were quite scary. Although he couldn't see, he could even judge the scene. More accurate than many. "Zhang'an, your son was completely suppressed in this duel," Jun Bajian said calmly. "The competition between 10,000 Beasts Palace and Xianbing Pavilion has been extremely fierce in recent years, and many disciples have fought against each other, accumulating a lot of grudges." Zhang'an smiled coldly and said, "It seems that the Temple of Sacrifice has put a lot of effort into cultivating Zhang Yunting's son. It didn't take long, but the progress has been huge, especially in terms of speed. However, the true showdown of strength is the grand gathering of the 6 palaces. I believe it will be even more exciting in the future." Palace Master Zhang, "Thank you, Divine Attendant." Xinyao nodded slightly. Zhang Zizai's trick was very similar to Kirishima's. Wan Shai had also been tricked by him like this before. Unfortunately, Zhang Wu still fell into the trap. Although it was a bit shameless, the priests and Yuanqing of the temple were still very happy because, at least for now, because of Zhang Zizai's performance, the number of Dragon Balls sacrificed in the temple is already the highest among the 6 palaces. Of course, it's still early. "Is this Zhang Yunting's youngest son?" Prince Longyun turned his head slightly and asked Prince Yang. Prince Yang nodded and said, "I've heard that Nangong K was teased by him. This is the first time I've seen him today. There was no sound just now. It seemed quite low-key. The lightning storm, haha, made me suffer a lot a few years ago." Prince Longyun smiled and shook his head. "By the way, I heard recently that Shen Xiao and him are very close, and they have a close relationship, Prince Yang said in a low voice. Based on his closeness to the prince, it is obvious that he is a supporter of Long Yun. Xiao Zhao. When I was a child, I talked about Zhang Zizai every day, but it's been 10 years, what the hell is she doing? Prince Yang shook his head and said, I don't know, this little girl is so indifferent to favors and humiliations, she is a trouble. The prince smiled and said, she is just relying on the favor of her father. Who else will stand on her side except the father? But the second and third sons have been dancing a lot lately, maybe they have sensed an opportunity. The prince should calm down and stop confronting his majesty all the time. The more times they do it, the more opportunities they will have. Long Yun was silent for a while, then nodded and said, I understand. While they were chatting, the entire maze battlefield began to fall into a melee. From the beginning of Zhang Zizai, many teams had already encountered each other and started fighting directly. Because of his previous performance, many people still followed Zhang Zizai. He was like a ghost, moving swiftly through the maze battlefield with one man and one sword. 60 breaths later, Zhang Zizai noticed the aura of the others and quickly chased after them. Soon he saw the figures. Coincidentally, they turned out to be Nanggong Shuiying, Ye Chaiwei, and Wan Shat. The sacrifice temple did not let the strongest team up, which was indeed eye-catching. However, at this time, Zhang Zizai asked his teammates to use the Ascension Talisman, and he still met the strongest teammates. Normally, in such a situation, they would join together. Rely on the advantage of numbers to sweep away. Is it you? You let them use the Ascension Talisman, Nanggong Shuiying looked unhappy. Zhang Zizai, you are really fooling around, Yu Wei said angrily. You can go alone, we don't want to go with you. Wan Sha didn't want him to join. Zhang Zizai was startled and said with a smile, whoever wants to come with you, hand over the Dragon Ball, or I will take action. If you don't want to lie down like Kiri's Hima, move faster, I'm in a hurry. Are you crazy? How can anyone rob one of his own Dragon Balls? Nanggong Shuiying's face was cold. He really had never seen such a person. Zhang Zizai said, I'm serious. If I put it in your hands, it will be snatched away sooner or later. It's safe to give it to me. Don't even think about it, Nanggong Shuiying stomped her feet angrily. Who doesn't want to perform well at this grand gathering of the 6 prefectures? Then don't blame me for being rude. So people saw that the 6 prefectures held a grand event, something that had never happened before in history. Zhang Zizai took action against his own people. Moreover, he showed no mercy at all. Anyone who resisted would be stabbed with his sword. Not even Nanggong Shuiying could stop him, let alone Wan Sha and Yu Chaiwei. In less than 5 breaths, all 5 of their Dragon Balls were in Zhang Zizai's hands. Of course, their injuries were much lighter than those of Zhang Wu's companions. Zhang Zizai, you are absolutely crazy. After the 6 houses grand meeting, let's see how the divine attendant will punish you for your misbehavior. Nanggong Shuiying was frightened, so she took the initiative to hand over the Dragon Ball. She is still in shock. Zhang Zizai's sword was so fast that it just passed her throat. She knew that if he wanted to, he could cut her throat in an instant. Stop talking nonsense and use the Ascension Talisman to get out quickly. You won't have to be beaten by others. Zhang Zizai was too lazy to pay attention to them and quickly disappeared. Now he has 14 Dragon Balls. Nanggong Shuiying and the others were on the verge of tears. Such a strange confrontation naturally shocked many people. Zhang Zizai's performance is totally out of the ordinary. This is the first time I've seen him attack his own people in all these years. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. He wants to rely on himself to snatch the Dragon Ball. He is too confident. It's not confidence, it's arrogance. How can one person's efficiency be compared with 15 people? Now that he has tasted the sweetness, he will suffer a great loss when facing the siege next time. If the sacrifice temple ranks last this time, he will definitely be the biggest sinner. The ranking of the 6 prefectures is so important, how can he play it so lightly? What is the sacrifice temple thinking? In the past, the sacrifice temple was the well-deserved first. What happened in these years? It has declined so badly. If there is no Zhang Zizai, then Nangong Shuiying and Yongle are just cannon fodder. Compared with the Holy Dragon Palace, it is really far behind. The royal family is still more powerful. Can the sacrifice temple really communicate with the ancient gods? Countless discussions were generated because of Zhang Zizai's performance. However, these discussions disappeared quickly in the following time. Those who had spoken shut their mouths and their faces were hot. Because next, the entire maze battlefield was equivalent to Zhang Zizai's own performance. He was absolutely a madman. He relied on his crazy speed advantage to find prey. When he encountered a difficult one, he dispersed the opponent and used the same method to deal with Zhang Wu to take away the Dragon Balls of the weaker team. When he encountered a team like Nangong Shuiying, of course he rushed directly. The terrifying lightning storm body skills made those disciples fall to the ground and cover their thighs before they could see who he was. The Dragon Balls in their hands were gone. The action of one person was much faster than the action of the team. A team battle turned him into a personal hunt. Later, he met Yongle's team and used the same trick again. None of the 15 Dragon Balls in the temple were lost, and they were all collected in his own hands. With his gains, from the beginning, the total number of the sacrifice temple was directly ranked first, and it was far ahead of the second place. Even this advantage was still expanding. Even the strongest team of the Holy Dragon Palace was not as efficient as him alone. It's crazy. Is there no one who can control Zhang Zizai? I thought that Zhang Wu of the 10,000 Beasts Palace would make a big splash today, but from the beginning, Zhang Zizai stole the limelight. Even, Zhang Zizai met Zhang Wu again, and Zhang Wu saw that he was covered with Dragon Balls, more than 30. So many. Zhang Wu looked at the 5 Dragon Balls he had just robbed, and couldn't believe what he saw. This time he learned to be smart and put the Dragon Balls on himself. Do you want it? Come and chase me, Zhang Zizai laughed. Zhang Wu chased after him, but he stood there for a while because the person had disappeared. This maze battlefield was too easy for Zhang Zizai. He just accelerated and turned a few corners, and the person was gone. Suddenly, there was a strong aura ahead, and it was obvious that there were strong men fighting. Zhang Zizai quickly went up and saw that one team, with only 2 people, crushed the other team. I said, "We don't have any Dragon Balls." Yongle fell to the ground, wanting to cry but without tears. He was a genius in the Temple of Sacrifice, and when he came here, he became a popular commodity that everyone could crush. The other party searched his whole body and finally confirmed that they no longer had Dragon Balls. "It's on me," Zhang Zizai flashed out from the side and said with a smile. Brother Zizai. Princess Shenxia was stunned for a moment, and when she saw that Zhang Zizai was covered with Dragon Balls, she was even more stunned. "Catch him!" The eyes of the 3 princes were straightened at once.